Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and as the title says today, we are going to be talking about snow goose hunting and the snow goose hunting for beginners. This video is going to be aimed towards more of the guys that's just wanting to get into snow goose hunting, and I'm going to try to help you kind of get an idea what to expect and how to get what you need. And so hope you guys enjoy this video, and if you do, if you find it informative and if it helps you, please leave a like, leave a comment. I would greatly appreciate it. So snow goose hunting is something that is not for everybody. That is for sure. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, all day sits most of the time. And it's a lot of bird watching. No matter how many birds you kill, you're going to do a little bird watching. That's just the nature of the beast. But nonetheless, there's days where every goose you see, you shoot at. I mean, that's just how it is. That's hunting. But so let's say you and your buddies are just sitting around. You want to try to snow goose hunt. You're either seen a bunch of geese, or you've got a field that geese are using, or you went with a guide and you want to try it on your own. So the first thing you're going to need is some decoys. Let's say you've already got the areas to go and stuff like that. That's pretty much a given. So now you're looking for some decoys. If you're on a budget, I would suggest getting on Facebook Marketplace, looking for full bodies, windsocks. If you're on a budget, I would suggest windsocks. You can get more of them for less money than you will full bodies. The only upside to full bodies is they're the most realistic you can get, and the life expectancy of them are a little bit longer than windsocks. I mean, I've had windsocks for 5 years that's already starting to get holes in the tail ends of them, just from corn stalks rubbing on them and stuff. But so windstocks, if you're on a budget, is probably going to be your best option. The only bad thing about windstocks is if you got no wind, they kind of look limp. But if you got no wind anyways, they're tough to hunt geese even over full bodies, because there's no motion on the ground or no movement on the ground. So yeah, definitely get on Facebook Marketplace, look for some decoys, and I wouldn't get any less decoys than 300. I've killed geese over 300 decoys a lot, and I've had some really good hunts over around 300 decoys. So there's a misconception, I think, of that. Oh well, I need thousands and thousands of decoys to kill snow geese, and that's just not the case. Everything's got to align in your favor and for it to work. Because I've seen guys go out and drop thousands of dollars on decoys, and go out and sit, and they don't hardly kill anything. And then the next year, you see their decoys on Marketplace. So just kind of keep that in mind, when you're buying decoys. The next thing I want to talk about is, e-collars. How am I going to get, what am I going to use to sound like geese on the ground? And the e-collars are very important. I think they get put on the back burner a lot to decoys, but e-collars are super important. And one of the reasons is because that's what projects the realism to the geese. When the geese see your decoys off in the distance, when they approach you, they start hearing that collar. They start hearing those sounds. And one thing that I like to do, I run a 4-speaker e-collar. I only run one. You can run multiple, but I'm probably going to run 2 this year. Try to. But I run a 4-speaker e-collar, and you can build them, fairly cheap. You can get on Amazon and buy all the parts, and you can get on YouTube and find videos on guys building them, or get online and find templates or a list of things you need in order to build them, stuff like that. They're fairly simple to build, honestly. So if you're not wanting to buy an e-collar, get online, look up how to build one, or if you could probably even get on Marketplace and find an e-collar on there too. So because I've seen them before. So you got your e-collar. So now what sound should I use? And I got a video on this, but I'll talk about it here. I like calling sounds mixed with feeding sounds, and there's some different e-collar sound manufacturers out there that have some really good sounds, and I'll leave some links down below on the sounds that we use. But I like the calling sounds over the feeding sounds, just because when geese approach other geese, and they hear they're excited on the ground, it just seems like geese work a lot better. I've used e-collar sounds where it was just that feeding sound, and the geese just, they'll work to you, but it just seems like they don't work as well. Like they're not aggressive to get there as fast. And maybe that's just in my own head, but that's just what I've experienced and how I feel about it. Definitely look for some e-collar sounds with some calling and feeding mixed in, and like I said, I'll leave the links to those down in the description. So now the next thing is your hide. So am I going to wear all white and lay out in the decoys? Am I going to use layout blinds, or am I going to use an A-frame style blind? I would suggest, if you're just getting started, I would lay out in whites or get a layout blind. Layout blinds are actually getting cheaper than what they used to be. But layout blinds, the thing about them is you gotta corn them suckers in. And we use them here personally because you can throw all your stuff in there, and if you plan on coming back the next morning, I just leave everything in the blind if there's not gonna be any rain or anything. I just leave everything in the blind except my gun and maybe some shells or whatever, but I'll leave my snacks and stuff in there and close up the lids to my blind. And then when I get back there the next morning, I'm gonna pack all that stuff back in. That's one nice thing about layout blinds is for the storage, and that you can take really good naps in them. So, because you might have some slow days, and Wyatt, he knows he's taken a few naps in layout blinds as well as myself. So.
Old boys can't run with the big dog. Rook, you still awake?
Yeah, buddy. Rodriguez is over here. I wake you up in the morning, I piss out, son.
But with the layout blinds, how we do it is we corn them in. I mean, we get piles of corn and put on these blinds, and we make sure the boot bags are covered because they're the first that's going to get the corn kicked off of them going in and out. And then we take windsocks with longer stakes and stick them in between each blind, because when we put our blinds up, we put them right next to one another, and then we take windsocks and put down in between the blinds, and then we'll put a windsock or two right where the face mesh is, because a lot of times there's like a void right there, there's a black hole or like a bare looking spot. So I just like to throw a windsock over there to cover up my face and to kind of cover up that hole. Because at an aerial view, that's the first things you can pick out are those holes in those layout blinds. So, and it kind of breaks those shadows up off that too. So the shadows off those windsocks breaks up that outline, and that's what we found seems to work best with layout blinds, hiding them. And in some of our videos, you can see we've got some geese close. So if you're using A-frames, I would suggest sticking them outside your decoys, maybe 15 yards, and making a 20 to 25 yard shot. I'd either try to cross shoot them where they're coming in from left to right so they're not looking right at you, or you can put them in front of your decoys and they'll work straight down. But the thing is with A-frames is you got to get that top cover on there. It's almost to the point where it's going to be uncomfortable to sit in, because that's just going to be a black hole, and they'll see that and they'll see you inside that and they're gone. So definitely make sure if you're using A-frames you get that top cover on there. If you're going to lay out in whites, I would suggest getting some windsocks, putting around you, or some decoys and piling around you to kind of break your outline up, or whatever. You can get some layout chairs. They're fairly inexpensive. I think they even have ways you can make them. Yeah, so if you're going to do that route, I suggest, each time you're trying to hide, put decoys around you if you're going to be in the decoys. If you're going to be outside in A-frames, get the top cover on good and get that hole knocked out. So the next thing we're going to talk about is motion. If you have no wind, geese are tough as nails to hunt, because snow geese, like I said, they're constantly moving. So when they're working and they see that nothing's moving, they're gone. One of the ways that we do help a little bit with that is using rotary machines or bounce machines. They even have clones, which I'd like to get us some. So Higdon, if you want to hook me up, I'd appreciate it. I'd use the heck out of them. But clones are probably the most realistic motion decoy you're gonna have, especially with a persuader on them, but they're very expensive too, like $300 a pop. So they're not gonna be in my budget anytime soon, unfortunately. So but yeah, I believe they work really good. Rotary machines, there's a time and place for them. If it's super windy, I take them down. If I've got some wind, I'll stick them behind me. If I've got no wind, I'll stick them in front of me, and I'll run flappers on them. We use White Rock Deck Boss flyers and Silosock flappers. So yeah, we try to run 2 rotary machines. So I suggest 2. If you have one, I'm sure it'll work. We've used one before. We used one quite a bit last year. But so yeah. But sometimes geese don't like them. Sometimes they do. You just got to try to figure that out as you go. And so yeah. So the more experience you get, the more you'll start figuring things out with geese and how they react to things. So. So now the next thing is, what shot size, what kind of shells should I get, to shoot these birds? I suggest, Federal Blue Box number 2s or 1s. Those are my favorite, or even BBs. And but I like the Federal Blue Boxes or the Winchester Super X's. Those are the 2 that I use quite often. And I started using Rios recently, and I really like Rios too. So Rios, Federal Blue Box, Winchester Super X. I shoot this cheap stuff because I mean, you're going to be burning a lot of shells, and there's no point in spending thousands of dollars on shells, believe it or not. They're expensive. I mean, shells are expensive the way it is, so I've killed a lot of geese with cheap shells, so I'm sure a lot of people have. So yeah, you don't need expensive shells to shoot geese. I do run an extended range choke tube in my gun. I have a Pattern Master in my gun right now. We started using the snowplow choke, and I love that thing. They're a little pricey. I think they're $90 a pop, but man, they knock geese dead. But a simple modified stock choke, the modified choke that comes with your gun, works good too. I've killed a lot of geese with those too, and so has my dad. So don't think you need to go out and spend $100 on a choke tube in order to kill geese, because you don't need to. I just was going to throw that in there if you're interested in something, if you're wondering what choke tube to use. So I just kind of threw that out there for you. The biggest key in snow goose hunting to me is don't get discouraged. Everybody can claim they're an expert, but those guys, some of the best snow goose hunters out there have all had bad seasons or all had 0 days where they've killed nothing. I mean, that's a part of it. That's the nature of the beast with snow goose hunting. So if, let's say, that season, you've only killed 1 goose, per se. Don't give up. Get out there the next season, because that next season, things might line up in your favor, and you may just absolutely knock the tail off of them. That's what makes snow goose hunting fun, is the unpredictability of it. That's why I enjoy the cat and mouse game. And sometimes there's times where we've used something one day and we've just absolutely slaughtered them, and then we've had the same weather conditions the next day, decoys and everything set the same, and you're expecting another day like that, and it doesn't happen. The birds that day just decide they just don't want to work, and you're just sitting there thinking like, what the heck what's going on? Well, it's just snow geese. I mean, that's all it is. That's all you can chalk it up to, is it's snow geese. So I hope this video helped you guys. If there's anything I missed, just ask me down in the comments, and I'll try to I answer every one of them. If you have any other suggestions, for other hunters, leave them in the comments as well. But yeah, so as always, guys, I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you guys take this out and use it this spring, and good luck to you. And it's going to be starting here pretty soon, and I'm excited for it. So anyways, good luck again, and I'll catch you next time.